Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 574 for the 20th of September for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. Let's start off with a shocking news. Ukraine have launched 11 Sukhoi 24M bombers. This is quite a huge number of fighters or fighter bombers to be all launched at the same time. From the Starokonstantinivka, not Nivka, Starokonstantinov air base, which is this one over here. And according to Ryba, these planes flew all the way towards Crimean, and 8 of them actually fired Storm Shadows, cruise missiles, and then the other 3 actually fired decoy, the AGM 160 MALD decoy missiles to mislead the defense systems, which the missile also looked pretty much like a cruise missile. And allegedly that 5 of the cruise missiles got shot down over Crimea, the other and also the air base. The other 3 actually hit their targets. So allegedly the planes actually flew from here all the way over Ochakiv and actually fires their target. A few of these missiles got intercepted over here, and then others intercepted over the airbase, and they hit certain targets over within Crimea. 3 of the missiles hit their targets, and this is very interesting because this is actually quite a distance for the planes to actually fly, and it does shows the commitment of the Ukrainian Air Force to fly huge distances to avoid getting shot down or destroyed on the ground. So and all these planes that are able to fire the Storm Shadows are very important. These are actually very precious planes because the Ukrainians do not really have any more new planes coming. Unless it's F-16s, which we still do not know when they will be coming. So this is actually pretty significant news, I would say. And this, of course, then attracted a massive missile strikes from Russia, which is currently ongoing. And the Ukrainians also launched a massive drone strike. Currently, the drones are flying towards Crimea. Allegedly a huge number, like I can't remember the number, like 40 or 70, I can't remember, or 30. So a lot of drones are all flying around, but generally I don't report much on the drone strikes because yeah, there's no difference from missile strikes or artillery strikes. So unless they hit something very important like an air base, then maybe I'll talk about it. Over at the Kherson front, over the Mykolaiv region, there's a Sukhoi 24M that was intercepted over Novo-Volodymyrivka and or Novo-Vladimirovka. This is the wording used by the Russian Defense Ministry. They say intercepted. I'm not sure if this is actually shot down or something. So yeah, maybe it is related to this one. Maybe this is the same thing, or maybe this is not. So anyway, over. And then also the Russian Defense Ministry actually reported that they have destroyed the recon forces of the Ukrainian Special Operation Forces close to Kozhatsky and the islands of Ayoshkinsky as well as Peryaslavsky. The key one is actually Kozhatsky because this is the one that we were tracking. And the Ukrainian forces previously have already landed troops and established a stronghold around this position. And the airstrikes are clearly very big because the Russians nowadays just use the FAB 500s, and they claim that the entire force is actually eliminated. This is a claim. And this airstrike is actually reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, as they mentioned airstrike in the area of Kozhatsky. So I'm not too sure if this is entirely eliminated. Thus, there's no change in terms of the mapping. But I just want to say to report on this very unusual report coming from the Russian Defense Ministry. Over at the Zaporizhia front, this is Zaporizhia, and over at Zaporizhia front, we have some geolocations. Ukrainian forces are geolocated south of Mali Shebaki, and over at this position. This leads us to update our front line accordingly. There's another one being geolocated over in the northwestern part of SITREP. This is by Creamy Caprice. Similarly, this also led us to refine our front line to show that the Ukrainian forces are actually holding the forest line around here. And moving into the Orikhiv sector, we have geolocation of Ukrainian forces right here in the rear. This was a shelling of this is like a counter artillery shelling of Ukrainian artillery. And over at the Robotyne region, the Russian forces is actually on the counter-offensive. They are the one that is attacking Robotyne. So far, no much news regarding this other than the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that they repelled Russian attacks in the Robotyne region. Geolocation is exactly over this stronghold, which shows the Ukrainian forces are still holding the position over at this entrenchment. And there's not much news around Novoprokopivka. So, as I mentioned, the Ukrainian are struggling to break through the Robotyne region, and they put most of their attention over at the Verbove region, and they're actually fanning out southward from the front line at Verbove, because they are also finding trouble trying to break through at Verbove. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this junction between the roads and the tree line over this position actually shows that the Ukrainians are actually making progress southward in this direction. Previous front line was actually something like this, so the Ukrainians actually have made some progress, some kind of a salient, and they're trying to continue to push southward seemingly. And the in the video footage in this geolocation shows armored vehicles led by armored vehicles with tank the mine clearing tanks, so right in the front, or mine clearing vehicles in the front. So that's very interesting to me that the Ukrainian forces are able to continue to transport armored vehicles to try to make this breakthrough. However, at Verbove, there is no change in terms of the front line. The Ukrainians still have not breakthrough. The Ukrainians are trying to attack by using the 71st Jaeger Brigade, and the Ryba also reported that the Ukrainians tried to attack. However, the Ryba reported that actually both Russian Defense Ministry and Ryba both reported that the Ukrainian forces did not manage to break through, and the Russians successfully repelled the attack. And geolocation by Z archive shows Ukrainian forces over at this position actually help us to also update our front line, that the front line is actually pretty much straightened. So the Ukrainian forces are still trying to break through. No luck so far for them. That's all from the Orikhiv sector. Getting really quiet, it seems. Moving on, over at the Velika Novosilka sector, there is Ukrainians continue their attack over the Prione region, in the north of Prione, as well as at Staromayoske. There is, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, there is some assault detachment attacking Prione in the direction of Prione, and Ryba actually reported that the fighting is in the north. So I'm not sure if this is the same attack or same fighting that is being mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry and Ryba. Ryba is the pro-Russian source or think tank. So no, just take a pinch of salt regarding this information here. So there is fighting reported at Staromayoske, most likely in the south or southwest of Staromayoske. This is a continuous attack by the Ukrainians in this region here. There's no signs that they have broke through just yet. This attack has been ongoing from the 16th all the way to the last day on the 20th. So that's all from the Velika Novosilka sector. Over at the Donetsk front, this is the Donetsk front. At the Donetsk front, we have fighting reported at Novodonetsk. This fighting is mainly by recon forces of the Ukrainians, 38 Marines. They were trying to probably probe the Russian lines over at Novodonetsk, which is also held by by Marines, but this is the Russian Marines. So far, it did not work out for them. And over at the Novomayoske region, this outskirt, the northwestern outskirt, is likely to be under Russian control already. The Ukrainians previously was mentioned to have withdrawn, and taking a look at Deep State UA's mapping, they did not insist that there is a Ukrainian position within the Novomayosk. So we have changed the front line of the Ukrainian front line as well as the Russian front line to reflect the withdrawal of the Ukrainian forces from Novomayosk. Moving on into the other side, there is geolocation over at Novomikhailivka on the eastern part of Novomikhailivka, just to confirm that the Ukrainian forces still hold positions within Novomikhailivka. Over at Marinka, the Russians are still continuing their attack in this totally flattened village. Fighting is still ongoing. It is a surprise that this little part here is still not captured by the Russian forces, which I expected them to be able to do so within a week. And I think we have already reached a week or even past that week that the Ukrainian forces continue to be able to reinforce and continue to hold this position. And this leads me to think whether if this is a trap for the Ukrainian forces to continue to go there and just get shelled by artillery. Moving on into the ANDRIIVKA front. The ANDRIIVKA front, we have some reports of Ukrainians fighting in the area near Khimik. Khimik is this district over in ANDRIIVKA. The Russian Defense Ministry keep mentioning fighting is near Khimik, despite that we know the front line have moved to Opitne, according to multiple open sources. So, yeah, the Ukrainians are fighting in this area here, I guess. Let's see how this goes. There is also an Ukrainian attack being reported by the Russian Defense Ministry against Vasily. So Vasily is this town over here, small little village. The Russian forces are defending against the Ukrainian attack in this direction, with the Russians holding the line. So far no breakthrough, no changes in terms of the front line was reported. Moving on, there's nothing at the New York front. Into the Bakhmut front. In the Bakhmut front, the Russian forces are reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry to be on the counteroffensive on the west of Zaysevy. So Zaysevy is over here, and the Russian forces are attacking west of Zaysevy. This is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Nothing else to talk about. There is fighting reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry at the east and the northeastern part of ANDRIIVKA. So I'm not sure where the front line is right now in terms of this area here. There's probably a lot of gray zone around this area here. So, which is probably why there is this report of the fighting in the east and the northeastern part of ANDRIIVKA. I don't think it's inside, because once they cross the railway line, it's basically inside ANDRIIVKA. So the attack is probably along the forest line. That is currently attacking the Ukrainian forces that is holding this position along the railway line. So let's see how this goes, whether the Russians will successfully push out the Ukrainians from ANDRIIVKA. Over at Klishchiivka, situation continued to be very vague. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that they defended Ukrainian attacks at Klishchiivka. Ryba reported that the Ukrainian forces tried to advance in the area of Klishchiivka, but they were shelled by Russian artillery. And this is trying to suggest that the Ukrainian forces are traveling through Klishchiivka to try to attack Russian forces, and they are not having a base or a base camp of sort or entrenchment position within Klishchiivka itself. And as they move on through the so-called gray zone village, as per what Ryba like to say that it is, they got shelled by Russian artillery. So we shall continue to monitor. It does, but by the assertion of Russian Defense Ministry and Ryba, it does seems like Klishchiivka might actually be not fully controlled by the Ukrainian forces. Maybe the Ukrainians are holding a more steady line around here, and they need to send in raiding parties through the village to launch the attack against Russian positions along the railway line north and the east of Klishchiivka. And this advance can be very vulnerable for the Ukrainian forces. So that's all from Klishchiivka. We move there's nothing over in the northern part of Bakhmut. We move on into Siversk, which there's also nothing here to report on. Over at the Crimea front, there is still fighting being reported over this region here. There's fighting reported at Dniprova, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. And that's about it, I guess. Yeah, that's the only information that we have in terms of the Crimea front, with Ukrainian forces attacking in this area here. And moving on, we have moved into the Verbove front. At the Verbove front, Myra Shchenikov reported that the Ukrainian forces counterattack against the Russian forces near Novoyehorivka, as well as Novoselivsky. So the Russian forces managed to supposedly hold this line, and the Ukrainians are actually counterattacking. So it was claimed that the front line is now stabilized. So let's see how this goes. And over at Novoselivsky, yesterday I have mentioned that the geolocation shows that the Ukrainian forces are inside Novoselivsky, and so this finally we have one of the sources talking about it. Myra Shchenikov mentioned that the Ukrainian forces managed to stabilize the situation near Novoselivsky, and so let's see how this goes. I think no one really wants to talk about this, which is kind of weird. And moving into the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, this is Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, fighting continues over at Sinkivka. Myra Shchenikov, the pro-Ukrainian source, continued to report that there is fighting at Sinkivka, and the Russian forces is attacking northeast of the village. And he says that there's a feeling that the Russians are going to expand the offensive over at this region here. So the Russians are attacking this area. Ukrainian forces continue to hold very strong position at Sinkivka. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, let's see how this goes. And that's it from the Kupiansk front. And that's it for the summary for the day of 554 for the 20th of September. Just some conclusions. There is not a lot of things happening. Main thing is the Ukrainians sending 11 Sukhoi 24s to fire 8 Storm Shadow cruise missiles, and then the other 3 actually fired the decoy missile. And this is actually noted by Ryba as a change in terms of tactic of how the Ukrainians actually launched a missile strike. And this is also the first time I've seen a report that the Ukrainians launched this many missiles all in one single sortie. So that's very interesting to me. And the other major news is actually the shelling, the airstrike on the Kozaksky Island, and which probably maybe took out the entire Ukrainian forces that was actually entrenched over at this island over here. But this cannot be confirmed, so let's take it with a pinch of salt. Over at the Orikhiv sector, Ukrainian forces continue to get stuck over at Verbove. As a result, they continue to push southward from this front line that they managed to capture. And this southward push is seemingly having some success. And however, over the Robotyne region, the Ukrainians are actually on the defensive, with the Russians are actually launching counterattacks against Robotyne. This is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. We shall continue to see how this goes. And so things are pretty much still over at the Orikhiv sector. Over at the Velika Novoselka sector, the Ukrainians continue to be launching some attacks over at this Staromayorsky region, as well as towards Prione, mostly probably in the north of Prione. And this attack is not very major, but it's just some offensive operation that is currently ongoing. We shall continue to monitor. It doesn't look like a big assault. And as well, other big news I would say is the Russian forces counterattacking at Zaiseve, as well as the Ukrainian forces seemingly have problems with holding firm positions within Klishchiivka, with Russians reporting that they are shelling and repelling Ukrainian attacks at the Klishchiivka region, despite Klishchiivka has been mentioned to have been captured by the Ukrainian forces. The counterattack of the Russians also happens at ANDRIIVKA. So let's see how this goes. And yeah, otherwise everything else is not much. Some Ukrainian counterattack over at Novoyehorivka, as well as Russian offensive over in the northeastern part of Sinkivka. We still need to verify if this is a major offensive, but we do have this operation happening over 2 days already, from the 19th to the 20th. So thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and for those that want to access the SITREP with with the full information of everything, do consider becoming a YouTube member. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.